Hello, everybody. Welcome to Bitcoin Not Crypto. My name is Forrest Hoddle on Twitter X, and in today's video, I'm going to talk about how Bitcoin saved Tesla in their Q4 earnings and how basically they adopted FASB fair value accounting for the amount of Bitcoin that they hold. Let's not forget, they're a Mag 7 company and they hold Bitcoin. I mean, we're focused on MicroStrategy, Amazon, and Meta possibly buying Bitcoin, but one of the Magnificent Seven already hold Bitcoin, and it just saved them. They would have missed on their EPS, their earnings per share, had they not adapted FASB and mark to market their Bitcoin holdings. So I'm going to get into all of that, but before I do, a quick word from the sponsor of today's video. I'm going to tell you about the Bitcoin Well, which is where I get all of my Bitcoin. They're a non-custodial exchange with the lowest spread in Canada and the US and no additional fees. They send you your Bitcoin directly to your hardware wallet, so no exchange party risk. And they also have non-KYC options available. If you use my link in the description, you'll get some free bonus Bitcoin for signing up, and it goes to support this show. And if you want to secure that Bitcoin for generations to come, you got to use Stampseed. It's the best possible way to store your seed phrase. You stamp it into this piece of titanium that they have, and it's easy to conceal. It's fireproof. It's crush proof. You can throw anything at this piece of titanium. It's titanium. It's very strong. So check them out. You can actually get 15% off of the stamping kit using my code BTC Not Crypto 15, and you can click the link in the description as well. So we're going to go over a couple different things, but let's talk first of what happened, and then I'm going to actually talk about what would have happened had they not paper handed their Bitcoin or some of their Bitcoin in 2022. So their Q4 earnings just got released. They made $1.6 billion, and 0.6 billion of that, or 600 million of that, was a gain, a marked up gain on their Bitcoin holdings. So that's when they adopted FASB to when the earnings were finished and the price appreciation of their Bitcoin holding within that time frame. And so it accounted for 26% of their Q4 profits. What's interesting about this is there's an estimate before earnings of any company. There's estimates of what people think the numbers will be, and they actually would have missed those numbers by 25% had it not been for their Bitcoin. And that would have been a huge signal to the market, and that would have created probably a sell-off just from algorithms and from possibly other things as well. Now, after they reported their earnings, they actually went up roughly around 5%, where Microsoft actually performed fairly well in their earnings, and they went sideways and down after earnings. So this is very interesting. And part of that is because of Tesla talking about in their earnings call some forward guidance, meaning that they're going to raise targets for increased revenue and things like that. So it's estimated that they own around 11,509 Bitcoin. And that's how they got that $600 million of profit. Now, that's not realized profit, but because of the new FASB accounting rules, it looks like profit on their balance sheet because it's basically investment income is how it ends up looking. So in 2021, Tesla bought 42,000 Bitcoin. And in July of 2022, they sold roughly around 75% of that and held 9,720 Bitcoin. And then by 2025, their holdings were 11,509. So it's, I'm not sure, I couldn't find accurate information. It said basically between 2022 and 2024, their Bitcoin holdings went up by that, just under 2,000, about 1,800 Bitcoin. If we look at their total stack, their initial total stack of 42,000, and then their current stack now, they actually lowered the amount of stack that they had by 72%. They sold 72% in total of their Bitcoin, and they bought, with the buyback that they did. So if they had just held that, right, there's this rule. There's this rule in Bitcoin that it should be loosely followed. And that rule is never sell your Bitcoin, right? I believe in not selling your Bitcoin because you're selling it into fiat, which is just a melting ice cube. I believe in using your Bitcoin when the time is right. If they had not sold their Bitcoin, if they had not paper handed that Bitcoin, if they had not squandered generational wealth, as some people do that have held Bitcoin and end up selling it, they would have recorded a Q4 2024 earnings just from the Bitcoin alone of $2.19 billion. This is 136% profit when compared to the earnings of just the Tesla car company alone and the other few things that they're dabbling in and have future projections of. So if the car company profit was accounted for 100%, right, which, it does, the profit from the Bitcoin would have been 136% of the profit on top of that. So they would have made more just from holding Bitcoin than they would have from years of becoming this massive electronic car company, the number one electric car company. Why did I say electronic? That was weird. The number one electric car in the world with the Model X. You see them around everywhere. They have the charging stations. They do solar. They do batteries. They've just put in so much work. And yet in this last quarter, right, this is a snapshot. I'm not saying it entirely, but in this snapshot, just from holding the initial 42,000 Bitcoin that they would have had if they hadn't paper handsed it, they would have made more money just from buying that Bitcoin on their earnings. I mean, they would have had, what is that? That's 3.8 billion as opposed to 1.6, right? It's just incredible what a difference that would have made to all of the investors, right? And I think this is kind of going under the radar, right? This is 26, as it stands after paper handing, this was 26% of the Q4 profits of Tesla. And I haven't seen anybody really talk about this. I've seen a couple Bitcoiners talk about this, but I follow some Tesla investors as well. And they've just talked about the forward guidance of Optimus, of robo-taxis, of all this kind of speculative stuff that we'll see if it happens. And, I hope it does for the Tesla investors and for the future as well. It's pretty cool tech. But in reality, this Bitcoin holding that they had was incredibly significant to their earnings report and will continue to be in the future as well. They haven't sold any of that. That profit is just, in their books. They're able to write that as a profit because it's increased in that time. If Bitcoin goes to 120,000 or, a million, like some people think that it's going to go to, and Tesla still continues to hold what they're holding, every single quarter, their EPS is going to be a little juiced by the increase in price of these holdings they have. Now, if we relate that and reflect that to another company that I'm very fond of and that I talk about a lot here on this channel, MicroStrategy. How many Bitcoin does MicroStrategy hold? It's something like 461,000 or something like that, right? That's a hell of a lot more than 11,509. That's like, those numbers are like so far apart, ridiculously far apart. Just some really rough math here. This is going to be like, $20 billion in earnings that MicroStrategy is going to be able to show. Something like that. I mean, we're not sure, they're probably going to report it, I guess, in their Q1, which will be later, and all of this, right? Like, when are we going to see this happen? And, what will Bitcoin's price be and how much will they hold by then? And all of these, there's so many factors that go into that. But, it could be 20 billion plus of earnings on MicroStrategy. And historically, they've been a negative earnings per share company because of the accounting laws for holding digital assets. So that's going to be a huge shift. That's going to be a big shift in algos that haven't tuned their model to this FASB change. It's going to be a big shift in telling your friend about MicroStrategy, them looking it up on TradingView and seeing negative earnings as far back as, you can go a little bit, and then being like, you know, what is this business? I don't want to invest in something like this if they're value orientated with their investing or something, right? That's going to be a big change. Oh, wow, they had this huge earnings report in this last one, and it's massive. What happened here? It's just an accounting change. It's still the same business. They're still doing the same thing. I mean, they're always changing it up, and that's part of the appeal of MicroStrategy, and part of the mispricing of MicroStrategy is that they continue to change their strategy slightly. They add, you know, preferred shares. They did converts. Before that, they did traditional corporate debt. You know, they're doing all of these different things, and that adds volatility and change, and the inability to price it fairly or to know what the price is and how long are you projecting that into the future. And of course, that creates volatility, and that volatility creates an options market and creates a convertible bond that they can issue at 0% interest and all sorts of good stuff. So keep mispricing it. Keep welcoming the bears that short it or that don't understand it, and don't buy it, because if everybody understood what MicroStrategy was, they would buy it, they would hold it, and they would know, and that, you know, that volatility wouldn't happen anymore. So we want misunderstanding with this company, and I think this what we've seen here in Tesla is going to be a precursor. It's going to be foreshadowing to what we're going to see in MicroStrategy, and it's going to be huge. And it's going to be huge because once news about this, you know, breaks, like, you know, a few pundits, a few people, even Michael Saylor, you know, he'll go on CNBC, he'll probably mention Tesla's holdings and how it saved them from, you know, not beating their estimates and all these kind of things. I mean, maybe some other people will too on these mainstream channels, and some other corporations might get wind of this and think, man, we got to do something like what Tesla's done. We got to do something like what MicroStrategy's done, because Bitcoin's a winner. Let's hitch our ride to Bitcoin, because we can see historically, you know, it compounds at these crazy rates, and it's better than holding cash, right? We don't need all of our cash reserves or all of our working capital just in cash. We can put some of that in Bitcoin. That's about it for the video today, guys. If you have any questions, comment them on YouTube. If you have anything to add, comment it on YouTube. If you have any video suggestions, you guessed it, comment it on YouTube. We'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.